Charles Huff is in his first season as the head football coach at Southern Miss. And I got to tell you, he's been on the show a couple of times when he was the head football coach at Marshall, did a wonderful job there. He is the second HBCU grad to be a head football coach at an FBS institution. Of course, you've got guys like Jerry Mack, who's the head coach at Kennesaw State, went to Jackson State, for a year, but he's the second graduate is Charles Huff. And I tell you what, Southern Miss off to a pretty good start, but we'll hear from Coach Huff, and he'll tell us how good the start is for Southern Miss, who, as a matter of fact, are on their bye week, coming off a big win. Charles Huff, again, the head football coach at Southern Miss, joining us here on the program. What's going on, Coach Huff? Welcome back to the program.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. You guys do a really good job with your show and a lot of listeners, so I appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. Great to have you. I got to start here. Just your thoughts. You're 5 games in, 3-2 on the season. Your thoughts on how things are going to this point as you enter the bye week.
Yeah, I think, we've improved each week. There's a lot of things that we need to get cleaned up. I don't think we've been as consistent as we need to be moving forward. But I think the times in which we have not been consistent, we are able to learn from. I think as the games have gone on, game 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, all the way up until this last game, I think we have started to be a lot more consistent. And I think we're learning how to prepare. And I think that's what, people really don't see on Saturdays. The games are won Monday through Friday. And getting our players to understand that and what that looks like every single day, every single week is the challenge. So I think we've done some good things. I didn't come here just to win more than one game than they did last year. So my excitement is tempered with caution because I still believe that there's a lot of room for us to improve.
Yeah, your thoughts on the victory over Jacksonville State, which was your last game, 42-25. That victory, just your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought our guys did a really good job of responding. I didn't think we played very well the week before. I didn't think we played with a lot of energy. I didn't think we played with a lot of effort. I thought we played hard, but I thought our mentality was wrong going into the game. So we challenged them. I thought we had our best week of practice, and I thought we came out with a totally different mentality. I thought we played faster and more physical than we did. I thought we dominated the game. I thought we overpowered them in some areas. I still think there's some things we got to improve on. But overall, I thought we played with a much greater sense of urgency, confidence. You could tell we had a good week of practice by how we played. Defense made tremendous plays, got the ball turned over. Offense did a really good job in the red zone. So there's a lot of things that you go back and you look at that were tremendous improvements. So I feel good what we're able to learn from that as well to move forward.
So what does a bye week? You've done this a long time, a lot of success at Marshall. What does a bye week look like for Coach Huff and Southern Miss?
Yeah, I think it's changed. 10 years ago, you would be kind of looking at development and trying to get some of your younger players more reps, trying to get some of the younger guys in your program, some live opportunities in practice maybe. Well, now the guys that you would be developing ain't going to be on your roster. So there's no need developing them because they'll be in the transfer portal because they ain't playing. So for us, it's a little bit of we take this week to kind of look at, okay, what are the fundamental areas that we need to improve on? What are the little things that maybe don't show up on ESPN that we got to get better at or we won't be on ESPN? And then what are the things from a schematic standpoint? What tendencies do we have? Every time we go trips, do we run this play? Every time a team runs this play, do they gain yards? So looking at from a coaching and playing standpoint, what areas fundamentally can we improve? Towards the back end of the week, the coaches will start to make the switch and review and eval the next opponent. I'm hesitant always to start the next opponent too early because the more time you have, the more you come up with. And next thing you know, your game plan is too big. The more you keep talking about them with your players, it's kind of like, yep, I heard that last week. So we try to keep the actual game prep the same, which is usually 72 hours. And for us, the time that we do have extra, we'll kind of let them get some academic work done, give them a few more hours during the day to do that. We'll continue to work on some of the fundamental things, and then schematically doing some self-scout.
Charles Huff, again, in his first season as the head football coach at Southern Miss, he joins us here on the program. Braylon Braxton, your quarterback, he was with you last couple of years, last year, I should say, at Marshall. He was the Sun Belt Conference newcomer of the year so far this season, completing right around 65% of his passes, 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Your thoughts, and averaging almost 250 yards passing per game. Your thoughts on the way he's played so far this season?
Yeah, I think he's played phenomenal. People used to talk about, the sophomore slump, and it's really not a sophomore slump anymore because of the transfer portal. It's year 2 slump. And for him to come in last year and get all the accolades and play at a really high level, for him to be coming back with all the noise that's been around him, all the noise that's been around, what he's supposed to be, I think he's handled it well. I think he's preparing at an unbelievable clip. I think he's going into games more confident, more poised. He's making better decisions. He's not forcing the ball. Again, he's having different conversations on the sideline with what I saw, what I like, what do I think. So I think he's doing a great job. I think he's truly grown. Obviously, for us, it's our second year, but he's been in college since Noah built the ark. So he's played a lot of college games, which I think helps. I think he's playing, although in year 2 with us, I think he's playing like a 5th-year senior quarterback. And that's what's hard to find in the portal right now. The guys who have the years typically don't have the on-field experience because that's why they're transferring. But to find a guy that's kind of got the combination of both, he's matured with the years that he's been in college, but he's also matured with on-the-field experience. I can't say enough about the kid. I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
I got to tell you this, Coach Huff. So we every year around Thanksgiving, we go to Massanutten in the mountains, right not far from James Madison. So I said, I'd always been trying to go to a James Madison football game, and I wanted to know what that was like. Well, it just so happened that they played Marshall last year around this time. So I'm like, oh, that's even better. I can go. And I had a chance to go. I got to tell you, I left not because you all were getting beat. You were losing 16-0 in this bowl game. It's not I just left. It was cold. Thank you. That's really why I left, because it was cold. I saw it. It was fine. And I'm listening to the game on my way back to where we were staying. It was probably like a 20-minute drive and so forth. Not that I count Charles Huff out, but I got to be honest with you. James Madison was playing well. You were down 16-0. It wasn't until 2 days later that I found out that you won that football game. So that was a big-time victory. Can you speak to last season and leading Marshall to its first Sun Belt Conference championship?
Yeah, unbelievable group of players. Players made a decision in the summer what they wanted to do. I always tell guys when the players make a decision of what they want to do, it's only the adults that can screw it up. And I challenge the adults in the program, the coaches, the administrators, everyone around. Don't be the reason that we screw this up for the kids. What does that mean? Don't be the reason that we don't do a good enough job with a game plan. Don't let egos come in. Don't get into, my stats or my unit. Don't allow, one game kid played bad or kid played great to carry over. And if we do that, the kids will take us where we want to go. But it's our job as coaches or adults to not screw it up. Like if you really look at it, when you hear these great teams or you hear these teams that should have this and should have that, 99% of the time, it's the adults that screw it up. Whether the coaching doesn't do their job in holding people accountable, whether they don't do a good enough job of running plays that the kids can run, whether there's, hey, I'm the offensive coordinator and I'm going to try and score 60 so that my stats are high, whatever it is. But that group of kids at Marshall made a decision in the summer. They said, we want to win a Sun Belt championship. And they did the things that matched their statements. They stayed committed to the process. They held up their own standards. They prepared with unbelievable detail every week. They held each other accountable. We didn't have one missed class, one, hey, Johnny's not turning in his work. We didn't have one, hey, Johnny got a speeding ticket. We didn't have any of that all year. And that's the kids' decision. right? They make those decisions, and those decisions that they made off the field, I call it blind preparation, right? The preparation no one sees. No one sees, like Braylon takes our guys out now every Tuesday at 8:00 in the morning. They throw routes by themselves. No one sees that. But that started at Marshall last year. No one sees at lunch all the receivers come up and they're catching 100 balls on the jugs. No one sees that. No one sees Josh Moten, our starting corner, has a walkthrough with the defense at 2:00 on Tuesdays. No one sees that blind preparation. That's what they did all year. And when they make that kind of commitment, man, it's a special group. Even when you're down 17-0, it's just a matter of time for when that commitment, that preparation, that extra session, whatever it is, will kick in to give you a chance to be successful.
Was it a difficult decision to leave and let me back up, because I don't really know the situation. Like, what had a lot of success at Marshall, 4 years there, with 3 bowl games in which you coached in, but 4 bowl games. I mean, what was the deal at I know you're happy at Southern Miss. That's not what happened at Marshall.
I wasn't given an option to stay.
Okay.
So it made it really easy to go find another job. Administration, which were great, wanted to go in another direction. I think people got to realize this is a business, and I get it. And it's a business on both sides, right? I got to protect my family. Administrators got to protect their university. There was no ill will. It was very open. The discussions had been had. Everyone that needed to know what was going on knew. Obviously, there's stories and people from the barbershop who know more than people that were in the meeting, of course. But the reality of it was they wanted to go another direction. They have that option. Wow. I thought I did exactly what I said I was going to do when I came there, which was make the place better and win a conference championship. I did that. My family was able to I had 2 kids in Huntington. I thought our 4 years there, I thought we did an unbelievable job, not only on the field, but changing the program or representing the program at a high level. Numerous amounts of kids going on to the NFL, numerous amounts of kids graduating. So at the end of it, we were able to both go our separate ways. They made a decision. I get it. It's usually just doesn't happen with the end of the story that, what people think. But that's part of it. And I was talking to some of the players the other day. I think when you go to a place, you want to make sure you leave it better than you found it. Right, whatever that is. And I think we, as an organization, were able to do that.
I'm not going to belabor this, but last thought on this. I mean, look, I laid the resume out, right? 4 bowl games, like you said, better than you left it. Success first season, Conference USA, a Sun Belt championship. I mean, that doesn't sound like a situation where a coach should – that the program should move in a different direction. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like I say, typically when the kids get it right, the adults screw it up. Typically what happened when the kids finally get it right. Think about it. I don't know if you have kids in the family, but when the kids finally clean their room, it's mom and dad that are still mad that they didn't clean their room yesterday and are still arguing. Like that's typically what happens. No, I don't think by any means it was a normal situation. But I also don't think by any means that it was spur of the moment or jaded. I mean, there was a lot of thought that went into it. There was a lot of back and forth that went into it. And the best decision that they felt was to go a different direction. Again, it's hard to fathom because you're looking at, the outside looking in. It's not hard to fathom when you know that when the kids get it right, the adults will screw it up. That's just the reality of it. I think there's examples all over college football, of programs who coach was there winning 8, 9, 10 games. All of a sudden we want something different and they haven't won 8 games since. So I think, again, sometimes the business pieces and the adults don't always line. But one thing I've always tried to do, regardless, is make sure that wherever it was, you leave it better than you found it.
Charles Huff, the head football coach at Southern Miss, joining us on the program. Appreciate that answer, Coach Huff. What do you remember about those days playing at Hampton for the legendary Joe Taylor, who I did speak with in that we did a documentary. We just celebrated 20 years back in August, and he was part of the documentary. But what do you remember most about those days at Hampton and playing for Joe Taylor?
You know, I always remember. I always felt like Coach Taylor coached us more for life than he did for like the game. Obviously, he did a phenomenal job of getting us ready to play and that, but I always felt like, regardless if he was talking about third down or if he was talking about, parking tickets, he was always able to tie it to life. And because of that, I've always remembered everything that he ever brought up. And it hit home differently. Obviously third down's important. Obviously, second down's important. Obviously winning the game's important. But I think sometimes we get caught up in this position called coach, and we think it's just our job to win football games. That's not it. It's our job to win these young men's better lives, or put them in position to win in life, as well as win football games. Don't get me wrong. And I thought Coach Taylor did a phenomenal job of taking some guys like myself who probably didn't know up from down, who without that program probably would not have been as successful in life as we are. And I'm not just talking me. I've got teammates that are doctors. I've got teammates that are lawyers. I've got teammates that are high school coaches. And every single one of us can attribute that to the life lessons that Coach Taylor constantly preached to us. It wasn't just a workshop in the summer. It wasn't just a team meeting at the beginning of the year. Every day he talked to us, he was speaking life. And it helped us understand the game of football better, but it really helped us become better men in life.
I mentioned Jerry Mack, who's at Kennesaw State. He's a Arkansas State grad, but he started his career as a player at Jackson State. For you playing at Hampton, starting your career at Tennessee State, then going to Maryland, then going to Hampton before your career went on. With the lack of HBCU grads, that as I mentioned, you're one of two. I mean, in the history of college football, like one of two. Do you ever think you may get to the point where you would be a head coach at an FBS program?
Well, that's the goal. My goal is to be the first black head coach to win a national championship. That's been my goal since I was 5. I think that's probably why I was able to go to an HBCU and still be able to get to where I am now and hopefully where that'll take me, because my goal has always been bigger than just being a head coach. I want to be the head coach that, little kids look up to. When I was a kid, my dad and Art Shell went to college together at UMES. Yep. So I used to go to Art Shell football camps when I was little. And then I got to watch this guy that I was at football camp when I was at 7, 8 years old. Well, he becomes the head coach of the Raiders. Well, this guy was, at the barbecue with my dad talking about life, just hanging out. Now he's the head coach of the Raiders. I got to watch that, and I started to believe that I can be that. Why can't I be, that? And then I get to watch guys like Tyrone Willingham and those type of guys go on to do things at the highest level. So when I was a young kid, I said, you know what, there's never been an African-American coach to win a national championship. Now, back then it was Bear Bryant and those guys, but you didn't see it. So I didn't, at 5 years old, I'm not going to sit here and say I was Martin Luther King and said I want to be the first black head coach for the national championship. I said I want to win a national championship. I want to do what I see Alabama doing. I want to coach that team. As I got older, I realized that there's some color barriers and there's some color hurdles that you have to go over. But even at 40 right now, I still want to be that head coach that wins a national championship. So for me, it's always been something of striving higher. I do believe that God has a plan. When that will happen, who knows? I do believe that now that the transfer portal and NIL has changed things, I don't think you have to be at just Alabama, Texas, or Tennessee to do it. I think that helps, create more avenues for not only myself, but coaches like Marcus Freeman, James Franklin. So there's other avenues now that you don't have to have one out of three top jobs in America to win it. I think there's other avenues. So as I strive to be the best coach I can be here at Southern Miss, just like I tell my players, yeah, all of you want to play in the NFL, and that's great. You should want to strive to be, play it at the highest level. But how do I get from where I'm at now to being the first African-American coach to win a national championship? Be the best version of myself I can, September the 30th, and try to do everything I can do today to be the best head coach I could possibly be. And then I do that tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day. And if I stack enough days, hopefully somewhere along the line, someone will say, hey, this guy deserves an opportunity to do it at a really high level. Or I do it so well here that from a resource standpoint, we build an empire big enough to compete at the highest level. I think that has changed now. Now, is it going to happen overnight? No, but we're having more and more conversations about what group of five schools should get in the playoffs than we did 10 years ago. So I think the avenues have changed, but the way to be successful has not changed. And that's wake up every single day and be the best version of yourself.
Last, I love these conversations. I can't keep you too long, and I know you got a bunch of stuff to do, but last thought, because at the Super Bowl, had a chance to catch up with someone who you know well, Kevin Loxley, during the Super Bowl. Both of you all were assistant coaches under Nick Saban at Alabama and then moved on to respective programs. Of course, he's now at the University of Maryland. I don't know, if it's purposeful. I actually like the fact that Coach Saban has given opportunities, particularly to black coaches that have since moved on to FBS programs as head coaches. What were those 2 years like for you at Alabama and in assisting Nick Saban?
I don't know if you've ever been to doctorate school, but that's what it's like. It's like going to get your doctorate. And I say that in the most humble, appreciative way possible. It's unbelievable. The way that you think you know the game of football, even from the X's and O's, the way you think you know the game of football, the way it's broken down, the way you think you know about motivating a team, running a program, building a program. It's unbelievable. It shaped my head coaching career, and I've been with other really good head coaches and learned a lot, but I learned more in those 2 years than probably in 20 years of coaching. And I'm being completely honest. And not necessarily do you run, 3-by-1 stick or do you run cover 4, but how to run a program, how to attack the mental disposition and psychological disposition of 105 players to get them to perform at a high level, how to recruit, how to build a roster, what are you looking for in certain traits at a position, how to communicate with certain players, certain people, ultimately how to be consistent enough to do the same thing over and over and over without becoming boring or monotonous. And then how to have the discipline to do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do, the way it's supposed to be done. I know that sounds very elementary, but that's how you become successful. And that's how you separate yourself from where you may be now to where you want to be. And just the constant, when you walk in that building, it's literally 4th and 1 on the goal line in the Super Bowl every day. And you feel like I have to do my job at such a high level so I don't let everyone else in this organization down, that you grow so much. I always talk about, bamboo grows under the ground for like 7 years and then it spurts up and it grows 7 feet and whatever. That's really what it's like. You go through a very short period of time in the growing stage, but when you come out, you're so much farther ahead than you would have been if you didn't go through it, if that makes sense.
Very good. Again, Charles Huff, the head football coach at Southern Miss, joining us here on the program. Southern Miss has the week off. And I tell you what, Coach Huff, I really appreciate these conversations and your insight on things. Look, continued success to you and the Southern Miss program.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. If there's anything we can do for you guys, please let us know. If you're ever down this way in the Hub City, come on by and see us.